What's going on, Who Dat Nation? And welcome to another edition of the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. My name is TJ Jones. Thanks for checking out the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Well, Who Dat Nation, I got some news for you. According to some sources, the New Orleans Saints backup quarterback Teddy Bridgewater will be re-signed by the New Orleans Saints. Now, you can take this with a grain of salt, but there are a couple of news sources out there that are covering this story. Teddy Bridgewater will re-sign for the New Orleans Saints. So it seems like the New Orleans Saints are very comfortable with choosing Teddy Bridgewater as the heir apparent to Drew Brees. And I don't have a problem with that. For those that have been following the podcast, you know how I feel about Teddy Bridgewater. I've been watching Teddy Bridgewater since he's been the quarterback at Louisville, before he even got to the National Football League. And a lot of people thought that Teddy Bridgewater was going to be the first pick overall. But unfortunately for him, he had a bad pro day. And because of that bad pro day, his stock just went down in the draft, and he was picked dead last in the first round by the Minnesota Vikings in the NFL draft. But Teddy Bridgewater has had a career that involved injuries. He had one injury that almost cost him his entire career. He spent more than 2 years out of the National Football League. And of course, he had the opportunities to play a little bit, I think maybe a couple snaps when he was in Minnesota. And then a lot of people were talking about him during preseason last year with the New York Jets. And of course, the Saints signed him to back up Drew Brees. I need everyone that's listening to this podcast to understand this. Drew Brees is 40 years old. Drew Brees is 40 years old, which means that Drew Brees is going to be retiring really, really soon. And the New Orleans Saints want to get a quarterback that is good enough to replace Drew Brees. Now, will that quarterback be better than Drew Brees? Highly doubt that, man. For somebody to put up the numbers that Drew Brees has put up and the consistency of the play of Drew Brees, it's kind of hard to find. To find a guy that has the character of Drew Brees is hard to find. A leader like Drew Brees is hard to find. But Teddy Bridgewater is a good replacement for Drew Brees. I know you haven't seen it. I know a lot of people have been putting stock into that Week 17 game, which I do not understand. The New Orleans Saints were playing with two offensive linemen that they got off the street. And on Monday, they cut those guys. So basically, they just hired those guys for depth to get through that game. And a lot of people have been paying attention to Teddy Bridgewater and that game and saying that, oh, he's not good. Taysom Hill is better than Teddy Bridgewater. Taysom Hill is not better than Teddy Bridgewater. Look, we all love Taysom Hill. I love Taysom Hill, but he is not better than Teddy Bridgewater. Give me some proof that he is better than Teddy Bridgewater. Don't tell me about that Minnesota game when he threw that 45-yard pass to Michael Thomas, because I can easily tell you about that 45-yard pass that he threw that was intercepted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Taysom Hill is a good Swiss Army knife player. He's an athlete. If you want to line him up and throw a pass every now and then, cool. It might work, it might not work, but he does not have the athleticism, the intangibles of a Teddy Bridgewater. I know, once again, we have not seen Teddy Bridgewater in action, and some of you probably never seen him, but he is a really good quarterback, and he will be even better learning under Drew Brees and having years of this playbook under his belt when it's time for him to play. And I have to say this. The fact that the New Orleans Saints are talking about re-signing Teddy Bridgewater just tells me what I've been telling you all the whole time. Drew Brees is going to retire. I am a strong believer that Drew Brees would have retired from the National Football League if the Saints would have won the Super Bowl. Now, he probably went on TV and said no, he didn't think about it, but I believe wholeheartedly that Drew Brees would have retired if the New Orleans Saints would have won the Super Bowl. I heard it in the speech on Monday Night Football after the game when he talked about passing Peyton Manning as the all-time leading passer. He said, "This isn't the reason I came back." Go and listen to it. He said, "This isn't the reason why I came back." So why would a person that wasn't thinking about leaving say that? And a lot of people are like, "Oh, he said that." Man, people say things all the time. Maybe he said that because he didn't want to be a distraction. Can you imagine the distraction it would have been if Drew Brees would have been like, "Oh, yeah, that would have been my last year." Then everybody would have been, "Man, is this his last year? Is this his last year?" And Drew Brees is not that type of guy. He does not want those type of press clippings. So I'm a firm believer that if the Saints are re-signing Teddy Bridgewater, that Drew Brees is going to retire really, really soon. Teddy Bridgewater is a great replacement for Drew Brees. Now, will he be a Drew Brees? No. But he can win them some games. He can keep the Saints competitive if he can stay healthy. That is the most important key. Can Teddy Bridgewater stay healthy? Because if he does, I think the Saints have a great quality backup or a good quality backup in Bridgewater. But I would like to hear from you. What do you think? Do you think that the New Orleans Saints need to re-sign Teddy Bridgewater? Do you think objectively? I say objectively because sometimes we don't think objectively. We become prisoners of the moment. But do you think that Taysom Hill is better than Teddy Bridgewater? Also, if you don't like either one of them to be the heir apparent, who would you like to see as the heir apparent to Drew Brees? Comment down below, like, and share this video. This has been the State of the Saints podcast. Check out the State of the Saints podcast on Facebook, facebook.com, search the State of the Saints podcast. On Twitter, SOTS Podcast 8. And previous episodes are available on iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio.com. Till next time, all I have to say is, who dat?